Well, hello and welcome to this video today in the ROMA for Boards training series. Today we're focusing on implementation of services and strategies for local community action board members. So the objectives of this video, we're going to focus on how will the agency's strategic plan be implemented. Also, is there an action plan showing who will do each essential activity? Do the program managers need to work on resources, budget, personnel issues? How are customers recruited for the services? How are partners engaged for the strategies? What will happen? Who will identify the indicators? And then how will you know through identifying measurement tools and processes? So these are many things to consider in implementation of services and strategies, and there's a specific role for board members in this area. Most of the time, program staff do most of the implementation, but what we want to cover today is what role do board members have in implementation. So our presenters for today, from left to right, myself, I am Courtney Kohler. I'm a senior associate with the National Community Action Partnership. We also have Dr. Barbara Mooney. She is the director for the Association of Nationally Certified ROMA Trainers and Implementers, and also a learning community subject matter expert for the National Community Action Partnership. And then to the right of the screen, we have Dr. PJ Davis. She is the treasurer of the Association for Nationally Certified ROMA Trainers and Implementers, and also the president of PJ Davis Associates. So this is one module within a series for local community action agency board members. And of course, today we're focusing on implementation of services and strategies. And so we want to, ultimately with this whole series, we want to increase understanding of how to help community action agency also increase its capacity and its results, as well as how to meet and exceed the organizational standards. So with this series of presentations, we will be identifying key principles and practices that are a part of the performance management system that is unique to the Community Services Block Grant and the Community Action Network. This system is known as Results-Oriented Management and Accountability, or ROMA. So throughout this, we will show how the ROMA cycle is, as seen here on your screen, how it's embedded in the organizational standards, and we'll be making reference to the organizational standards throughout. So just to show you all where we're at on the ROMA cycle, we are down in implementation now. We've covered assessment and planning through other videos that we've presented, and now we're going to be talking about implementation of services and strategies. And so there's no organizational standards specifically related to the agency's provision of services at the individual and family level, or the strategies at the community and agency level. But it is clear that the delivery of high-quality services is expected in the national theory of change and in the expectation of the achievement of results. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to PJ, and she's going to talk about the board role in implementation.
Thank you, Courtney. So the board role in implementing the services and strategies, the board is responsible for assuring that personnel and fiscal policies and procedures are in place. The board is not involved in the day-to-day operations of the agency. So, for example, the board is not engaged in personnel issues and should not encourage employee conflicts to be brought to them until after the standard conflict resolution process is completed. Even as this is true, there are some essential elements of the program implementation that should be understood by the board. The board should understand definitely the personnel and fiscal policies and procedures that are in place. So putting the plan into action, how will the agency-wide strategic plan be used to implement services for individuals and families and strategies for communities for the agency itself? Do board members really thoroughly understand how this is going to happen? Do they understand, is there an action plan showing who is responsible for doing each essential activity? And how will the quantity and quality of service and strategies be evaluated? The board should understand and know how these things are being evaluated to find out what results actually occur. Implementation of services and strategies includes a number of factors related to agency capacity, such as staff, who will be involved, where are the locations of the activities, when are they provided, what is the timing of the activities, What is the cost of each of these? And are there partners involved, and who are they? It also has to do with the quantity, which is frequency or intensity and duration. How often are we providing these services? How long do these services last? And the quality of services and strategies which the agency is engaged in. Let's talk a little bit about quality. When we consider evaluating how well we are delivering services, we need to understand not just how many services we delivered, but what is the quality of the service delivery. Are we efficient in our delivery service? Are we effective? What change will we produce? So we're providing a service. We want to know the so what, and how do we get to that so what? A lot of things go into the evaluation of service quality. Some program funding has designated quality measures. It's the agency job descriptions can be one way of helping to assure you have considered what skills and knowledge are needed to do the essential work of the agency. They can guide you to hire the right people who meet the right criteria, and then make sure that they are properly trained and equipped. Finally, they must know what they are expected to do. The process for supervision and evaluation of employees would be identified in the personnel policies and procedures. So though the board is not actively engaged on the day-to-day process, they set the policy and personnel procedures for how to get there. So getting ready. What is needed for the staff to put action into service? Are there budget issues that must be settled? Are there new facilities to be secured? We talked previously about looking at the geographic area where needs are located. Do we have facilities in those set areas? And if not, what will it take to get those facilities up and running? Do we need to repurpose some of our existing facilities? What supplies do we need to order? And what about the new staff? What about the training, existing staff and new staff? So do the program managers need to work on resources, budgets, and personnel? We're ready to open the doors. When creating the strategic plan, you may have considered how many customers you can serve with the resources you have. But now, your staff must plan to get sufficient response to the services you are offering. So there are some questions we have to ask. What is the target population you expect to serve? Are we serving children 0 to 5? Are we serving seniors? Are we serving homeless? What is the population that we want to serve? And how are customers identified for the service? How are they eligible? How will you let them know the service is going to be available? How are we promoting these services? How will clients in that area know that these services are available? And are there any special barriers you will need to overcome, such as language? We talked about access to service site. What about the operations of services? People get off work at noon and they get off at 5. Are we open when they get off, or will we be available for them during the time that they really need those services? And at the community level, how are partners engaged in strategies? So once staff is ready to start your service, how do we get the customers? Who are they? What type of eligibility do you need to assure that these services meet the needs of these clients? How many do you expect to serve? Remember, in the planning phase, you or your staff considered this question. Now, this is the time to take a closer look, taking into account the resources for the program and the expected cost of providing those services. Now that you have the services ready to go, make sure you have a target for the number of people who can be served. We are limited financially, physically by the actual physical building that we have, by the staff that we have, the human resources. This is a good place for us to talk about when does an applicant become a customer. Some steps that we need to consider about becoming a customer is at the application process, at the screening process, during enrollment, perhaps intake and assessment, or actually at the provision of service. Is there a minimum number of hours of service that will count toward the population that will be measured for the progress or final success? Not all of the people who apply will move forward to enrollment. Not all of those who start the service may finish it. So what will you track? An indicator is a specific, observable, and measurable characteristic that can be used to show changes or progress of a program. It's the service strategy making toward achieving a specific outcome. It should be based on data that is complete, accurate, timely, and reliable. It should be appropriate to the outcomes and useful for the program management. An outcome represents a specific result or change. Some action took place. Something is different now from when the client came in. The indicator helps you know that something has changed. Characteristics of an indicator include that it must be measured. Saying we improve the quality of life, that's really hard to measure. So data collectors need to know and understand what data we will measure in order to show that the client has achieved the outcome. If the measurement isn't useful, it isn't the right measure. It needs to be appropriate to the outcome. In other words, don't try to measure height with a thermometer. And make sure it is relevant, important to the outcome, and larger mission and agency-wide goals. Here's an example of indicators. In order to measure an increase in global warming, an example of a change we expect to see, not a good change, but an important one to track, we monitor the change in weather patterns. We look at the number of hurricanes in the specific area where there were usually not hurricanes, like Maryland. Or we take a look at tracking decreasing rainfall in California. These things are indicators of that negative outcome. So we'll talk about goals, outcomes, and indicators. And now I'll turn it over to Barbara.
Thanks, PJ. I'm going to take us forward in a little logic model that we started to work in our last segment, where we talked about needs and the relationship between needs and outcomes and services and strategies. Now we're going to add this concept of a projected indicator. Now the board isn't involved in development of indicators, but it's going to be important for you as a board member to know what is going to indicate that there were outcomes that were achieved by the services and strategies that were provided. So there should be at least one thing, one indicator for each outcome. There might be several indicators because you might have different programs working together to demonstrate a single outcome. So if someone is going to get a job, they might need to have indicators in transportation and childcare and housing and skill development. So there may be multiple indicators. What happens is that knowing what the indicator is will help you as a board member to follow the change that's happening to your customers over time. You can understand the progress that's being made or the lack of progress. And you need to have some evidence of that. And so you'll be saying, what does it look like if the participant achieved success? How would you know? What would you see or hear or read that would tell you that a change has happened? Sometimes these are easy. So school success, for example, some indicators might be school graduation rate or increased grades on report cards. So those might be easy. When PJ talked earlier about a change in lifestyle or improved quality of life and how that's difficult to measure, the indicators to show that might be more difficult. And then some things might require additional kinds of things. And this will help you measure progress over time to know that something is actually happening. There's a couple examples here. on the next page. So the need statement was parents aren't involved in their children's school activities, and the outcome is that they've increased their involvement, and the service is participating in monthly parent support groups. But the important thing for you to look at here are the indicators. How do you know that things are changing? And in this example, 50 parents report helping with homework. 30 parents report that they've talked to the teacher. 45 parents reported that they came to some school function or meeting. And those are things that you're able to track. And those should be included in the reports that you're given as a board member so that you can see how movement is happening. There are also things that are reported. And so in the National Performance Indicators, which is part of the CSBG annual report, there are community and family indicators. And these are a standard set of indicators that are common that are reported by local community action agencies across the country. So this is one way of looking at indicators because these are part of your report, the report that your agency provides. And these relate to all of the outcomes that your agency expects to achieve, not just those that are funded by CSBG. Another piece of this indicator concept is the idea of targets. It's important to establish targets, and this is what usually happens in the planning stage. Targets are established. These are quantifiable numbers that say how many people are expected to be served, and then how many are expected to achieve an outcome. And these are based on your past experiences, your program staff's past experience, your agency staff's past experience with this. And then it's part of, as I say, it's part of your plan. So these are some of the things that are part of your target. As I said, how many will be served, how many who are served are expected to achieve the outcome, and then what's the percent of success. And this really helps you to know what you're going to expect, what your agency, what the board is going to expect for the progress across the agency. Here are a couple examples of what indicator statements look like. So you might say 40 out of 60 of the students who are participating in the after-school program, or 66%, are going to improve grades. 15 out of 30 who participate, or 50%, will secure a job. And 90 out of 100 who get rental assistance will maintain their housing. You see, another element there is a time frame, by the end of the school year, within 30 days, or for 90 days. So these are pieces of an indicator statement that's important to know: the percent of expected success of the customer and the time frame. And remember, we talked about customer satisfaction in our assessment segment. And it's important to know here in implementation, what did people think about the service they received? This customer satisfaction data should be collected throughout the year and could help to inform the reporting that's provided to the board, along with other kinds of data. It's really a way to allow the board to know what's happening across the agency. And so it leaves you again with a few action steps to understand what data is collected for the management of your agency and to get reports from the program on a regular basis. We're going to talk a lot more about reporting in the next section. And then to think about comparing the action steps that were in the planning portion, or in your strategic plans, with progress that are that's being made towards the services, from the services and strategies that have been included in your planning process. So there are several organizational standards that would guide us as we think about this reviewing progress, and so these are the kinds of things that will be helpful. And that's the end of this segment. I'm going to turn it back over to Courtney for closing.
All right. Well, thank you, Barbara, and appreciate you, PJ, as well. And just to also want to say thank you to the local agency board members that are viewing this video. We appreciate your time and service to community action. And in conclusion, we will share on the closing screen a few additional resources and some contact information in case you would like some more information on implementation and your role as agency board members. So thank you all, and have a great day.